Welcome to NFL. Welcome to the Webplay Podcast. We are your hosts, Jacob and Lucas. Well, it's hard, Lucas. Okay, you haven't been around the last few weeks. I've been getting used to doing it by myself, so I'm getting confused. Okay, I did like 6 videos last week, 5 this week. I've been running around. It's busy.
Been busy news-wise.
Yeah. So let's begin. But we are happy that you are here. So the first game we got is the Thursday night game that happened in week 6. 49ers winning against the Seahawks 36-24. I don't know if you watched this game, because this is a lot like every San Francisco game I've seen this year. They have a big lead. They have up 2 scores. And then they let the opposing team just go right down the field and score. That's basically what they do. And I was looking at this all on Twitter, and they're like, boy, Brock Purdy with another exciting handoff. Basically what he does.
Yeah.
They're handing it off to their 5th string and 4th string running backs. That's what they're doing.
Right. I mean, that's the Kyle Shanahan system right there, and it's not a knock on Purdy.
No.
I think he's a good quarterback.
Yes.
I mean, and you've seen Jimmy G in there have success, but I think unlike Jimmy G, if Brock Purdy were to be on another team, he'd also be successful. Maybe not going to Super Bowl successful, but I think he's a good quarterback. But yeah, I mean, the better team won. I think the Seahawks had favorable matchups leading to a decent record to start out September. But, I mean, it was just more like a reality check, I think, for the Seahawks. This is what it is. The 49ers, regardless of their record, they're still the better team.
Oh, absolutely. I think it's such a scary thing, too, that you look at the case of San Francisco. They could be 3-4 at the end of this weekend. They really could be. They play Kansas City.
Honestly, more than likely they're 3-4. Kansas City's going to be the favorite in that game.
Like I said this yesterday. I said we are very much likely going to see a Sunday night football game where the two teams that their starting quarterbacks are 6 and 7 in combined records against San Francisco and Dallas. It's very likely.
Yeah.
And it's just a crazy thing. I don't think anyone pictured that to start the year.
No, it's been an interesting year. I think the Saints were a surprise, and you know, I mean the Bengals. Like there's all kinds of teams that are not playing how well they should be.
Yeah. So let's move on to your New England Patriots against the Houston Texans. The Texans beating them 41-21. And we were just talking about this off camera, about that you were impressed with Drake Maye and the way he played. I mean, like, first of all, Alex Van Pelt, we understand he's not the best coordinator. They don't do proper things. The offensive line is really bad. But Drake Maye, he held it in there. He did what he could do. He got beat up quite a bit, which is what I expected. But at the end of the day, there was a lot more good than bad, which is the direction you want to go in.
Yeah, he definitely got roughed up, and that's to be expected for the rest of the year behind this O-line. But overall, I think Patriots fans should be happy. I mean, no one expected us to win that game against the Texans. That wasn't even a thought going through my head. I just wanted to see how Drake Maye played, and he looked very promising. And like I was telling you off camera, like extending plays with his legs, the throws he was making, Jacoby Brissett couldn't make at this stage in his career. And he showed a lot more potential than I think Mac Jones ever did in one game. I mean, I don't know. He's a dynamic player. In his first game, he throws 3 touchdowns against the Texans defense, and that's promising. I really liked what I saw from Drake Maye. I really hated what I saw from the rest of the team. I don't think the team did him any favors. The O-line, Jalen Polk, the defensive side of the ball. I mean, it was god awful. But the only shining star was Drake Maye, and I think that's what Patriots fans expected after Sunday.
Though I thought when you guys signed KJ Osborne in the free agency period that you would use him a lot more. And you barely use him. You just don't use him.
And
And I
that
don't know
could
why.
change. That could change after this week. There's been rumors that Jerron Mayo is going to start benching key guys that just haven't been playing up to what they're supposed to. And some of those guys are Jalen Polk. That could see KJ Osborne getting more reps. Keon White, he's been he's had a good 2 weeks, and then he's just been giving up the edge, and he's just trying to get the sack, and he's giving up the edge. Raekwon McMillan led up 2 big rushing touchdowns against the Texans. Kyle Duggar has been playing to his what he normally plays like, so it's rumored that Mayo is going to make some moves. I hope he does, because this team needs to see that they're going to be held accountable.
Oh, absolutely. And we will talk about accountability when we get to the Cowboys, because that was pitiful. What were you doing? But let's talk about a team that I said the Ravens were going to win this game. I just said that they're going to win. That's just the way they're going to play. But you got to give props to the Commanders and how they play. Like, the defense is not great. It's not great. It's pretty rough at times. They lost Jonathan Allen for the season. He tore his pec. That's a big loss in the interior. The way they held it together, they only lost by 7. It's like, okay, that's good. Your quarterback looked good. Your defense, not great, but it's okay. How did your young quarterback look? Okay, he threw some good throws, didn't turn the ball over. You prefer the offensive line to be better, but that's alright. You did positive things. When you play games like this, you're not expected to win. Just do the positives. Dick Vermeil had a great saying, and I said this on Sunday. I said this on, I believe, Wednesday's show. Keep doing the right things right. Just keep doing the right things right. If you do that, maybe you won't win every game, but you'll be in every game. And that's what the Commanders did. They didn't win, but they were in it, and they had a chance to win it. And the experience you get from that is paramount to what happens in the future.
Yeah. Once again, I agree with you. I think no one expected the Commanders to win that game, but the fact that it was even that close, I mean, I wouldn't have been surprised if they got a reality check from the Ravens, and they really didn't. Jaden Daniels has played well, and someone that deserves credit that I don't think has received it this year is Dan Quinn. I mean, going in there, I mean, of course, he was successful as the Cowboys DC, but looking at how it ended in Atlanta, and then him finally getting another head coaching gig, and the Commanders are surprising people, and really, this is bad news for Cowboys fans and Eagles fans, because I think everyone expected them both to make the playoffs, that being the Cowboys and Eagles, and now it looks like the Commanders might take a run and take one of those spots. So, the Cowboys and Eagles, those games that they're going to play later in the year are going to be very meaningful.
I know this is not part of the schedule that we listed out here, but it's like I'm so concerned about Philadelphia right now. It's such a mess. They just won by 4 points against Cleveland Brown team.
Yeah.
The Giants beat them by 5. The Commanders beat them, I believe, by 20. The Cowboys beat them by 16 week 1. You beat them by 4. You had A.J. Brown. You had Devontae Smith. You have Lane Johnson. You're supposed to beat them by more.
Yeah.
You said, we have all our guys back. I mean, besides, like, you are essentially Deshaun Watson not shooting himself in the foot at the goal line, losing this game. That can't happen. And then you have Sirianni chirping at the fans, his own fans for whatever reason. It's a madhouse at this point.
Yeah, and I think it's the writings on the wall for Sirianni and the Eagles. I mean, they're not playing the last 2 years. They haven't played as well as everyone's expected them to, and I foresee big changes. I mean, if the Cowboys can turn it around and sneak into the playoffs, and the Eagles are the odd one left out, I would believe that Sirianni's gone. Potentially, even if they sneak into the playoffs and lose in the first round, I believe he's gone. So, bad news for Sirianni, probably good news for Eagles fans.
Yeah. Let's move on to the Lions-Cowboys game. Lions beating the Cowboys 47-9. Look, I try to put good will in the air and said, okay, Cowboys will edge this game out. They'll just do enough. It won't be pretty, but they'll do enough. But I understood, okay, there's a very good chance they lose. But I'm like, can they only lose by 7? So they show, okay, we're on the right track. We're doing the right things. We just came off a great game against Pittsburgh. There were some things that you saw, and then you get this performance.
Right.
And it goes all around. It does. It does go all around. But it's to the point it's not even funny to watch. It's like you can't win games a certain way and then expect the next week to just go back to what you did. It doesn't work.
Yeah.
Go ahead. Go ahead before I start a rant.
I just wanted to ask. I mean, I don't understand what the Cowboys' game plan is. But I feel like their game plan is to get down by 20 and to try and mount some comeback. The bottom of the bottom of the ninth, if you will. Every game, it feels like that. They only know how to play from behind. In this case, of course, it was insurmountable because the Lions just poured it on all game long. Normally, after a team is up by 27, something like that, they'll kind of stall out. They feel like they've done enough, and they won't push the envelope anymore. And that's when the Cowboys come back. This game it didn't happen, but that's not winning football. So I don't know, and I would ask you what do you think the problem is? Because into further ed, I saw Troy Aikman say that he believes it's the receivers, it's the route runners, that even if it's CeeDee Lamb, like their routes, and this is Troy Aikman saying this, wasn't impressing him. And if the receiver knows that he's not, the play design is not for him to get the ball, then they're showing absolutely no motivation to even try and make it look like that they're going to get the ball. They're not running off. They're slowly getting off the line of scrimmage, and they're running just lazy routes. So what's your take on that?
This is a 3-part question. This is really a 3-part question. Let's start with what Troy said. So to specify what happened, Troy Aikman was asked, how do you fix this Cowboys team? And you could, specifically this Cowboys offense. He could have blamed Dak. He could have blamed Coach McCarthy, which Coach McCarthy and Dak get a lot of blame. It's very valid. He could blame the offensive line. They have not played well. He blamed the receivers. He's like, those receivers, they don't run inspired. Like you said, when they're not expected to get the ball, they don't try to get off the line. So Dak's just sitting there. There's nothing he can do because it's a timing offense. It's a timing-based offense. When Dak gets to the end of his drop, that ball's supposed to be out. The whole West Coast offense. Time your eyes, time your feet, do everything. Is supposed to be timing. When that doesn't happen, it gets very dicey. So there's that. The receivers running uninspired. When they don't think they're going to get the ball, they don't try. Lots of drops. The guys are only they run curve routes. If we get to next year and I see another curve out on a first down or run the ball on first down, it's gonna be I'm done. I'm tired of this. I don't want to see it. That's all they do. They run curve routes, they run comebacks, and they run the ball on first down. That's all they do. I don't understand why we decided Rico Dowdle was the one guy who could run the ball against Pittsburgh, and we decided to put Ezekiel Elliott ahead of him. Don't know why. At one point, it was saying for Ezekiel Elliott, 7 rushes, 14 yards. I'm like, and we're playing him? Do something. Someone do something. It was so bad. It got to the point that the Lions, every time they got to the red zone at the end of the game, were trying to tackle eligible plays. They did one to Decker, which the one guy who actually stopped it was Damone Clark, which he did a couple nice things, but he hasn't played a lot because he's been really bad. He's really bad. He follows every motion. He's out of position all the time. But he's the one guy who made the play. They ran a hook and lateral to Panay Sewell. It was on and on and on. And they look, I feel the reason it's a 3-part question is you had the CD Lamb stuff. McCarthy with this very stagnant offense. There's no motion. It's not like he doesn't understand the concept of motion. He understands it because he said, well, that's how you get guys open. That's how you do this. They don't do it. I don't know why. They did it against Pittsburgh, and they were very successful. They didn't do it here. And then you have ownership that is going in like, well, we don't really care. That's what they do. They pay so it's how much it's kind of like this, Lucas. You look at it, you say, okay, coach, you gotta win. This is your last year because we're not extending you at this point. You gotta win. Also, we are depleting your roster. A lot of your coaches are leaving because they're going to other jobs. And instead of replacing them, you're just gonna have to deal with it.
Right.
Are you kidding me? And it's like, yeah, well, who do I get in return? Well, you'll get Ezekiel Elliott. Terrific. That doesn't help us. What else? Well, at one point we'll bring in Dalvin Cook, but we won't play him. Don't know why. Like, at some point, a breeze can move by. I'm saying, okay, we're playing that thing. Give that thing a jersey. I'm tired. Like, they don't do things. The offensive line is a joke. Dak got hit against the Lions. The Lions who can't get pressure at all, besides Aiden Hutchinson, which we will talk about. Dak got hit 22 times. And everyone's like, well, Dak is bad. Yes, he threw 2 bad interceptions. I get it. What do you want him to do? The team's not good enough. I hope they turn it around. I think they'll turn it around. But at some point, you gotta go and be like, you know, this is not on. It's on the players. It's on the coach. It's on the ownership. Absolutely. But at some point, I just feel bad for McCarthy. I really do. I feel bad for him. I feel bad for these coaches. I feel bad for these players because they're not on the same page as the ownership. And the ownership is like, well, whatever.
I agree. I mean, imagine how different your offense would be if you had Derrick Henry in the backfield running to set up the pass. People expecting the run because you have Derrick Henry, a huge threat in the backfield. Then those comebacks will be open. Then those cover routes will be open because you have a threat. I'm sorry, Enrico Daddle's not that bad, but Rico Daddle and Ezekiel Elliott isn't scaring anyone. Like you said, 7 rushes, 14 yards. No one is looking for that. So, I mean, it really comes down to Jerry Jones, my opinion, and his son. They're the ones shooting the Cowboys in the foot every year. What do you think would be the biggest message going to the bye week, like to turn things around? Get healthy, like a Parsons has been out. What is it?
So I think it's, first of all, you have to find a way to do something. The offensive line has not been good, so you have to make a change. I was talking about this yesterday, and there's guys who are a lot smarter than me that can figure this out better than I can. You're not going to move Zach Martin. He's too old. You're just going to keep him where he is. The guy you have at center is a rookie, but he was a guard in college. He played left guard, he played right guard in college. Move him to left guard. Just move him. You have a guy who, yes, he's a center, but he kind of mauls people more, so you put him at center. You roll your left tackle who played right tackle in college. You move him to there. You put your all-pro left guard, you say, okay, you're going to be left tackle, and let's just hope this works. Because you got to try something. You hope, because you're so injured, it makes no sense. Like, you got so much injuries. You hope Deron Bland will be back. Like, he was going to probably play, and then he didn't play. It was a very strange thing that was happening, but whatever. And then on top of all that, you really just gotta get some juice somewhere, wherever that comes from. Like this is a team that this is a crazy stat. They didn't have a 10-yard or 10+ yard run for a month, and guess who it came from? The biggest run they had was CeeDee Lamb's runs. That was it.
Yeah.
The biggest run from a running back that went beyond 10 yards was Rico Dowdle against Pittsburgh. He had one that went 12 yards, he had one who went for 15. I don't think Rico is a terrible running back. I don't. But at some point, you have to go and say, he's our best running back. Okay, he's starting. There's no, we're not changing that. That's the guy. And you're looking at, okay, we have, they haven't given Deuce Vaughn a jersey in 2 weeks. All right. Well, Dalvin Cook is not great. He's not that good. He's better than Ezekiel Elliott, so throw him out there. You can't do worse at this point.
I agree. I think you gotta, even if you started the year thinking that maybe Dalvin Cook wasn't the guy, you gotta change something because what you're doing right now isn't working. You're barely beating bad teams, and you're getting smoked by good teams. The only team that you beat that was somewhat coherent that I can think of off the top of my head was the Steelers. I mean, and that was to the fucking wire. That was a very tight game. So, and it was a clutch play by Dak to win that game. And I don't think Dak's the issue. I agree. But yeah, it's just one of those things. Like they need to figure something out in this bye week to really turn things around because they have a chance. They're lucky that the Eagles are arguably playing just as bad. They have a chance, but they need to get it together.
This is the NFC East. For the last couple of years, it's been really good. This year, everyone's really close, and how you look at all the divisions. The Commanders, they're 4-2. The Eagles are 3-2. The Cowboys are 3-3. The Giants, I believe, are 2-4. And they play the Eagles this weekend. The Giants do. It's close, all enough. You play San Francisco. I'm not saying you gotta win that game. I'm saying you gotta find a way to make it look competitive.
Right.
That's what you gotta do. You don't have to win. Just be competitive. Just show you care. Because at this point, they don't look like they care. And the ownership doesn't look like they care. And it's really dumb to watch. And you can tell, the players, the coaches care. They just have to fix it. But the ownership doesn't. The ownership doesn't care. So they're not on the same page. And it's I don't know what to do. How do you explain that to somebody? It's not easy to explain.
Yeah,
But then the Joneses aren't going to also admit that they've done stuff wrong. I don't know if you saw the radio interview.
Yeah, I did.
Where Jerry got really upset. How dare you say everything I've done wrong and not the stuff I did right? It's well, Jerry, for 28 years we said you've done stuff right. But this year it's just really bad. There's nothing you're hoping that Dak Prescott drags you. I still believe they win 11 games. I still believe they can win 11 games. But at some point, you gotta go help him. You got to. And I'm not saying that. Okay, give Mike McCarthy an extension. I'm not saying that.
Yeah. No.
But you got all these guys who don't know if they're next year, if they play next year. You have no idea. There's, I think, 3 guys who are on next year because they're on an actual new contract. And 2 of them play on your offense. You can't expect that to happen. You got to do something. And I was like, look, help him out. Go sign somebody. Oops. Go sign somebody.
Yeah,
And
I mean,
just do something.
they really do. I don't know if it's a mid-season trade, you know, which is not going to happen. I mean, let's be honest. I mean, if Jerry did that, then he'd be real desperate. Um, but hopefully they turn around after the bye. Um, you know, I guess we'll see. Hopefully they come out and they play uh, motivated. I mean, they just don't look motivated. They look like they're losing before the balls even snap. So
Yeah. And
hopefully
the
that gets
frustrating
changed.
part is, before we move on from this, is you went and had two guys in Dorrance Armstrong, Dante Fowler leave. You didn't replace them. You had an injury on the guy who was supposed to back up DeMarcus Lawrence. You didn't replace him. And when you did, it wasn't going to fix the issue. It was just like, it was like someone said, okay, we need Band-Aids, but here we only have like postage tape, so work with that. So that's what they did. You bring in two guys who are 35, 36-year-olds to play defensive tackle. That's not going to work. You have things that you have to fix. At some point, you have to be saying, we messed up, we have to fix this. But they're not having that. There's no accountability by any of them, by the owners. And I say owners because it involves Steven too. You can't do this all the time and expect that this will work. Even though it has worked, you haven't paid a lot of money for guys and they've overshown what they can do. But at some point, you gotta be like, man, talent's gonna be what we're doing. So we just gotta go get talent. They haven't done that. It's that simple. All right, moving on to. It was a surprise. Robert Saleh fired. Not the record was surprising of how much he was losing, how much he was winning. It was a surprise that it was a 2-3 start, but you can still know, okay, they have a chance for the top of the division this week against the Bills. Woody Johnson, and I wrote this down because I thought this was very important. Woody Johnson said Aaron Rodgers had nothing to do with this decision. Now, I went back, Lucas, on Wednesday to listen to the interview that he did on radio when he fired Robert Saleh. Because I wanted to see, did a reporter ask him about Aaron Rodgers? Did he mention Aaron Rodgers? And when I went back and listened to it, a reporter from ESPN said, did Aaron have anything to do with this situation? Woody Johnson said no. No, he didn't have anything to do. But I did call him. Now, this is the first I've heard of it. I don't know if you've ever heard of this, Lucas, and you can say if you heard or not. Woody Johnson called me because Rodgers suffered another injury. He had a low ankle sprain. For whatever reason, Woody Johnson felt obliged to call Aaron personally to ask about how his ankle was doing. Don't know why. I've never heard of this. I don't know if you've ever heard of that.
No.
And then he's like, well, congratulations, you passed the 60,000 yard mark, which congratulations for that. That's a big accomplishment. But when he said it, was talking to Aaron, he said, we didn't talk about this specifically. Well, why would he add the word specifically in that if
Right.
he didn't have a conversation somewhere? I'm not saying he said, we probably think about firing Saleh, what do you think about it? I'm thinking, he said, I'm thinking about making a change. What do you think about it? So
Right.
specifically, he might not have mentioned Saleh,
And
but there he said, I'm thinking about making a change. What do you think about it?
my
That's
question
where I
is
think it went.
right. And my question is, I'm wondering because it came out after that Saleh was thinking of making a change offensive coordinator wise with Nathaniel Hackett. You want to fire Nathaniel Hackett. Of course, Rodgers is buddies with him, The reason why Nathaniel Hackett has a job is because of Rodgers. Did he know that? Was that a part of the conversation? We don't know. I will say this. For anyone, obviously, I mean, none of us have proof that Aaron Rodgers was a part of this decision. I think you'd be a fool if you think that he wasn't. We don't have proof, but I mean, just look at what they've done. Okay, Nathaniel Hackett was hired by the Jets. They trade for Aaron Rodgers. Aaron Rodgers is a Jet. Robert Saleh was already there. Okay, that's not Aaron Rodgers' guy. They clearly had some miscommunications throughout the season, and they were struggling. Aaron Rodgers didn't seem to not like Saleh. There's some evidence of that. They had maybe not the best relationship. Saleh wants to make a change at OC. Rodgers doesn't like that. That's his guy. Woody Johnson calls him. They potentially talk about this. Saleh gets fired. And then what we'll talk about later, them trading for Davante Adams. I mean, if you don't think Aaron Rodgers is a part of these decisions, you're ridiculous. Of course he's a part of these decisions. That's probably was some of the deal with him being the quarterback of the New York Jets, was that he was going to have say like this. And he absolutely has say. And of course he's going to deny it. He would never come out and say that it's true. He would never
Well, he
say
didn't just
that.
deny it, Lucas. He didn't just deny it. He went and said, I can't believe these people are having these allegations against me, like as if I don't have all this power. I'm like, you do have all this power. Think of who you guys brought in when
Yeah,
you came. You brought in Randall Cobb, who hasn't been good at that point. Wasn't good. You brought in Alan Lazard, who wasn't good at that point. You brought in Adrian Amos, who was okay, he's fine. You brought in all these guys that were your teammates. And it's very unaccustomed that you bring in a coordinator who, okay, he knows the quarterback, he knows what the quarterback likes, he knows what the receivers like, but also here's another 30 guys who don't know, and you're just, oh, I figured it out. And then Aaron gets hurt, and you're putting Zach Wilson out there. And the thing that made me funny, it was so funny to me after all this was they got to a 2-3 start this year. Now, granted, they played in a potential round downpour over here against Denver. Okay, that was bad. But here's the thing. They were a 2-3 start, and if you look at the numbers, I think besides one or two differences, the numbers of Aaron Rodgers were exactly the same as Zach Wilson. Exactly.
right.
Like almost to the button. You couldn't have made that up. So if you're gonna blame Robert Saleh, which the defense is playing out of its mind, like they're trying. Like I don't how happy would multiple teams be if they said, okay, your defense is gonna hold every team to like 23 points. You're like, how much should we win by?
Right.
Like you can't beat. Like even on Monday night they played against the Bills. They scored 17 in the first half. Now, granted, there was Aaron Rodgers Hail Mary in there, but then the offense just died. It died. Now, granted, it was Todd Downing calling the play, so they eventually did make the change anyway. So I don't understand if that was an involvement of that. Why did they make a big deal of it at that point? I don't know. But the offense died. They only scored 3 points because they had two mixed field goals, but they don't do anything. So it's hard for me to believe that this is all fixed by moving on from a coach, moving another guy here, moving another guy there, and saying that's all going to fix it. At the end of the day, you have Aaron Rodgers, and you thought he was going to sprinkle fairy dust on everything, and it didn't happen. And from a lot of people, I'm not saying ESPN because I don't agree with what ESPN said, because ESPN was like saying, well, I had a direct line to Woody Johnson, and he said that he was thinking of this decision for a long time. For years, he was thinking of this decision. No, he wasn't. He was not thinking of this decision multiple years. Because if he would have already made the decision. He didn't, so that's why there's a totally difference. That's lying at the top of this peak, okay? They made the switch because Rodgers didn't want that. The fact they didn't name Nathaniel Hackett interim head coach was actually a surprise to me. But at some point, you have to go and say, how much power does Aaron Rodgers actually wield in this thing? Because it's clear, if an owner's calling you to ask about an injury, you're very close.
Right.
Look, Lucas, Robert Kraft is not this way, but Jerry Jones is. He's gonna be involved in everything. I have never heard of Jerry Jones, even when we had Deion Sanders, call Deion directly to see if he was alright. I've never heard that. I mean, I've heard of, okay, owners go and see the guys in the hospital. I've heard that. I've never heard of
Sprained
a
ankle.
low ankle sprain. We're flying on the way back and we're calling the guy.
Right. Yeah.
Never heard of it.
Once again, I think that it was probably a part of the contract. It was part of the deal. If I'm the quarterback of the New York Jets, I have say of what goes on in this team. I wouldn't say he's the acting GM, but anything probably offensive wise, you know what I mean? If they have a first round draft pick next year, or they will, you know, who that's going to be, it's up to Rodgers. If he wants O-line, if he whatever he wants, you know what I mean? It's up to him. So I think, like I said, I think it's ridiculous to think that he doesn't have power. Of course he's going to deny it. Anyone would deny it. But it's absolutely true. And I mean, we might as well talk about it right now. They trade for Devontae Adams. Does that turn things around for the Jets? I think it does. I think it does. That's where we disagree. So when I say turn things around, I mean make the playoffs. I don't mean win the Super Bowl. I think.
Yeah, I don't think it does. I just don't, because at this point, like, look, bringing in Devontae Adams, great, fantastic, but you have to understand, this team, like, okay, yes, they'll be afraid of him. They'll be afraid. Okay, we gotta guard him. We gotta double team him. We gotta move guys over there. We gotta do this. We gotta do that. At some point, you have to go and say, all right, Devontae is one guy. Okay,
Right.
we have Garrett Wilson. No one's afraid of Allen. Let's just be frank. No one's afraid of Allen. Sorry. You have Garrett Wilson. You have Mike Williams. You have all these guys, which they are potentially trading Mike Williams because he hasn't practiced the last couple days. Like, personal days, that means, we're canning you. Bye. See you later. There's things, like, it's not, Aaron has not been good. Okay? He's 40 years old. He's not been great. He can't really move. Coming off the Achilles stuff. The offensive line is not great. They actually ran the ball well against the Bills. At some point, though, you gotta go and be like, okay, it's not just, let's get another piece here. And I don't even think they're done for trading people and getting more people. But at some point, you gotta go be like, we thought this would work. It hasn't. And now we've given a 40, 41-year-old quarterback all the control that he wants.
Right.
He is basically, if you thought of Peyton Manning with the GM power, that's what he is right now.
So my logic behind this isn't the fact that Aaron Rodgers and Devontae Adams are going to be like they were in Green Bay. That's not my logic. My logic is you get Devontae Adams in New York. You're going to get Rodgers more comfortable, okay? He's got Lazard, he's got Adams, he's got a run game. I would imagine he would settle down a little bit. Like, yes, they're upset. The coach that he didn't like is out of there. You know what I mean? So I think he's going to calm down. He's going to get more settled. I don't think Devontae Adams and Aaron Rodgers, though I think they'll be good together. I think it's more about Garrett Wilson and Devontae Adams and Aaron Rodgers. Sorry, I think you put Devontae Adams out there, knowing that Aaron Rodgers is quarterback, he's getting all the attention. Garrett Wilson, who is already starting to get more of a connection with Rodgers in the last few weeks, he's played well. They played well together. Is only going to get more open. given the fact that he's not the number one anymore. I think that is the key to them making the playoffs. I see them beating the Patriots again. I see them beating the Dolphins again, and I can see them splitting with the Bills. I mean, the Bills, they won by 3. So my logic is that I think when I say turn it around, I don't mean win the Super Bowl, because I would agree with you that, I mean, they're not going to beat the Chiefs, okay? I, in the playoffs, if they play the Bills, I don't think they're going to beat the Bills, but I do think they do enough to make the playoffs, which isn't their goal. Their goal is to win a Super Bowl, and I don't think that's going to happen, at least this year. Next year, I don't think it'll happen either, just given the fact that Aaron Rodgers is getting older. But I think it's enough to make the playoffs. I think it's desperate, and it's one of those things. But I foresee it being enough to at least make a run.
So, Lucas, now we move on to who do you think? And this kind of depends into like what team has interested you the most? Like, okay, like this team's been really good. They've played well. They've done things well. What team has impressed?
Uh, I would say a team. I mean, I would say a team that has impressed me probably has been the Buccaneers. I think the Buccaneers. You pay Baker Mayfield. A lot of times when people pay a quarterback right off, and of course Baker played well last year, but you look at the Trevor Lawrences of the world and whatnot, and paying quarterbacks maybe more money than you're comfortable paying them, you're like, he deserves it, but is he gonna do enough? I think the Bucks have played good football, and I think Baker and Mike Evans and they're a good team. I mean, listen, it was close with the Saints in the first half, absolutely, with Spencer Rattler, who looked awful last night against the Broncos. So I mean, maybe that's not a good look for the Buccaneers defense, but and then Baker Mayfield throwing 3 interceptions isn't ideal either. But them just going off in the second half and not even shutting out the Saints in the second half, and I mean, putting up, was it 51 points they put up, or something along those lines? I think they've been playing great football. I think they're going to be in the playoffs. Another team I'd want to add real quickly would just be the Lions. I mean, how could you not give them their flowers after putting up 47 points against a good Cowboys team? You can say what you want about the Cowboys, but they're still a good team in the NFL. And then blowing the doors off. It's very impressive. What will Aiden Hutchinson do? Or, sorry, what would the Lions do after Aiden Hutchinson's out? Now, I don't believe that he will be back the rest of the season. I don't care what they say. And I don't think that they should let him play, even if I would just let him recover. I think if you want to make a run, I don't know how logical this is, but I mean, Max Crosby doesn't want to be a part of a rebuild for the Raiders. Is it I mean, if you're trying to win a Super Bowl now, you have the team. You absolutely have the team. Is it, I don't know, I can't think of the word, but it's absolutely maybe not something that should be done given the fact that you have Aiden Hutchinson, but man, oh man, that would be such a replacement and so much juice to the Lions. I mean, they're going to do it for Aiden Hutchinson. They're going to try and win the Super Bowl this year for him, and getting someone like Max Crosby, who doesn't want to be a part of a rebuild, would be huge for them. I don't think it'll happen, but it's just something to think about.
Well, I think the Lions is a good pick too here, but I'm gonna go with a surprise more or less, and not a surprise to you and me because we've seen this. The Vikings.
Yeah,
Like that's a surprise to me. Like you look at it, you say, okay, they lost Daniil Hunter, so how are they gonna get past rush? Doesn't matter. Brian Flores has them flying around. They got Van Ginkel, he's making plays. They got this going. They're like, okay, we're gonna fly around and make plays. We're gonna get sacks. We're fine. We don't worry about it. All right. Well, what about the quarterback? JJ McCarthy goes down. Now we got Sam Donald. How is this gonna work? How are we gonna get the ball to Justin Jefferson? How are we gonna get to Jordan Addison? Oh, it's fine. We got Sam Donald. He's gonna make it work, and it's worked. It's not perfect. It's not like, oh, they're gonna score 35, but they have played really good defense, and they say, go get us 23, 27 points, and we'll win the game.
right.
It's worked. They play aggressive on defense. They play really good offense. They do things well. They still let Sam throw it around the yard a little bit. They run the ball efficiently. It's working. It is working. Is it, like I said, it's not perfect. They might struggle against better teams, but in terms of impressed, the Vikings, it's I don't even know if it's that close of how much they've impressed. It's also kind of a shocker. Everyone in the NFC North is over 500.
Yeah,
Everyone, that's insane.
yeah. The
Like
Bears
you
is
look
probably
at
the
it.
most shocking.
Oh, absolutely. Like you look at every team. Who thought in the beginning of the year we would be thinking the Bears and the Packers would be the bottom of this division? Like, okay, we probably knew about the Bears, but the Packers, we were like, okay, they're gonna be really good. And it's like, wait, they're on the bottom of this thing. That just
Yeah,
shows how powerful it is.
yeah. I mean, it's
So let's move on to this part because this kind of all accentuates together. What teams have disappointed, and of the teams, what head coach is next to be fired? Of the teams that have disappointed.
well. I've picked one team and one coach in particular, and I think people would have to agree. The Jacksonville Jaguars.
Yes.
You pay Trevor Lawrence what you pay him. You name the stadium Trevor Bank Stadium or whatever it is. Um,
Did they
I mean,
seriously do that?
I don't know if it was just for a month or I don't know
That
what
I
it
hope that's
was.
a joke. If they
Yeah,
actually did that, that's they they
I,
they didn't just shoot themselves in the foot. They blew their foot off.
yeah, that's crazy. Um, I mean, you have Trevor Lawrence. He was getting hyped up like he was going to be the next Andrew Luck. Like he was going to be like the hype around him was insane. He comes in the league and he shows promise, and then he wins a playoff game and he gives the Chiefs a run for their money in the playoffs, and then he does absolutely nothing since. I thought Doug Peterson was a good hire for them back when it happened. Um, but man, he's the next coach to go, in my opinion. I believe, and we'll get to the picks later, but I believe that they're going to lose this Sunday to the Patriots. And if they do, which I think will happen, he's done. He's gone. I mean, going 1-6 with Trevor Lawrence, who and the cons think like that's their guy, that's their quarterback. You're gonna and whoever they hire as a head coach after Doug Peterson, because even if it's not after this week, if it's at the end of the season, they're gonna hire a new coach, and whoever it's gonna be is gonna have to believe in Trevor Lawrence and make it work. So I think Doug has tried. I think they've had some success, but I mean, at this point, it's just not happening. If they go 1-6, it's over in my opinion for Doug.
I agree with that 100%. And that was the pick I was actually going to choose. So I'm going to have to pick a different team here. So you're going to have to give me a second. Um, let's see. Okay, I'll do with this. I'll do this. Let's do the Cleveland Browns and Stefanski.
Yeah,
Because Miles Garrett's in the same boat as Max Crosby. He doesn't want to be there. They've kind of allowed him to like seek his way out a little bit. He's 32 years old. He's 31, 32 years old. He doesn't want to be there on a team that has no chance. Like he's been on that team for a long time. He has no chance to get there right now. And he's had very few opportunities to get in the playoffs. Like they don't move the ball well. I as much as Stefanski wants to say, like they can't move on from Deshaun Watson. There's nothing they can do. Like they can't bench him really because you're gonna pay a lot of money for a bench quarterback. Not really. You're not gonna eat the money because you then 5 years down the road you're still paying him. But Jimmy Johnson said something on Fox NFL Sunday this past week I thought was very interesting. He said they are going to let go of Stefanski, before they let go of Watson. They just have such an investment in Watson at this point. They're going to have to let Stefanski go before Watson goes. And I thought that's a very good point. It's a point we haven't talked about. As Stefanski's been good at times. He's been really good. His stuff does work. He's a decent coach. But at some point, you have to look at it and say, this isn't working. Something isn't working. Something's not clicking. It doesn't get fixed by Jameis Winston. It doesn't. The team's not very good. They're playing uninspired. The defense, which is supposed to be really good, is awful. It's really bad. You have all these guys that were swarming last year. What are they doing? They can't play. You have a lot of talented guys on that team. They're probably gonna get traded. They just probably are. You got Zadarius Smith, Dalvin Thompson. You have Myles Garrett. These guys might not be on the team in a few weeks because, and they're good players. They're just the team's not good enough. They're not gonna want to be there. So I say Stefanski.
Yeah, I think
so let's move on to
that's fair.
Another team in the AFC North who are thinking about a quarterback change. As in, Russell Wilson has practiced with the first team. He had first team reps this week. Do you think, Lucas, that the Steelers should make this change from Justin Fields to Russell Wilson? And will that spark something of offense?
I think they might as well. That's my thinking. Do I think Justin Fields deserves it? No. I think he's played fine. But I mean, they're not, and I think everyone knows that. I mean, they're not, even if they make the playoffs, they're not doing anything, and they're going to be one and done. Let's be realistic. Putting Russell Wilson in, you don't know what you have. That's really it. You know what you have with Justin. You don't know what you have with Russell. Give Russ a chance. See what he does. If he comes out and he's just about the same as Justin Fields, okay, maybe you didn't make the right decision. If he's worse, you got Justin. But I think you might as well give it a chance. Light a spark under the team, like you said, and just see what Russ has to offer. We don't know. Maybe him and Sean Payton just didn't click in Denver. Maybe he's still got a little bit of that Seattle Russ still left in him. I would say give it a shot. You signed him on a 1-year deal. For $1 million minimum, whatever it was. I mean, you signed him just to see. Just give him that chance. If you think you can win more games with Russ and you'll be more competitive, then I'd say do it.
It's one of those positions of it's like you can't go wrong either way because Justin's been good at times. I don't think they've really let the chains come off him because when they have, he's played well. They've done some nice things. He's just they aren't giving him that. He's trying to make plays, so it looks good. I do think you have to give Russell Wilson a shot at some point, so mine as well. And, see where you can go. Just see where it is. And if not, okay, then it's not Russell Wilson. Fine. But give it a shot and let's see what happens. Like you said, I thought Justin's been fine. He's done some nice things. I thought he's played better than he did in Chicago, if that means anything.
Right.
I think they've given him a little more control of what he should be doing. I think there's times this is not perfect, but I think that's more on the Steelers than Justin in the way they run their plays. So again, it won't be much of a switch. It will just be let's see what happens.
Yeah.
And they're not big investments anyway. So it's like, okay, let's see what happens here. So let's move on to. So this is more for Patriots fans. I'm doing this one. So Jabril Peppers was placed on the NFI list. The NFI list means we're placing you on this list so you can still get paid while you're not playing as we sort some things out. And, you know, there was multiple charges pulled against Peppers, and supposedly he is cooperating with the NFL and the Patriots in the investigation, but it does not look good for Jabril Peppers at this point.
No, it doesn't. Um, Obviously, this is bigger than football. If the allegations are true, he gets whatever's coming to him. Um, innocent until proven guilty. That's what I believe, and I'm not going to say anything. I'm just saying, like, I hope they do a thorough investigation and they find out what happened. If anything is even remotely true, like I said, I think he should be punished for it. Once again, it's bigger than football. I think him not playing till it gets figured out is fine. Whatever the NFL and the Patriots deem fair. So, if it is true, like I think Robert Kraft said, if it's true, he's off the team. But right now, we don't know, so we can't really say too much about the subject.
The one thing I think they should investigate is this dumb fining system they got. It's ridiculous. We're gonna
Yeah.
fine people for like socks being low. What a waste of time.
Yeah.
Like, and I said this, I still haven't seen it. So Rogers on Monday, he kind of got a little snippy with how the officiating was. 22 accepted penalties, so meaning there's more than that. And he said, look, the officiating is a joke, which normally leads to a fine. I have not seen it yet, but Friday's usually their fining day. They might as well call it Fining Friday. That's what they do. It's the most ridiculous thing in the world. But these fines are ridiculous. Like $11,007. It's like, what's the $7 gonna do?
Yeah.
Like, there's nothing there. Or it's like
Yeah.
$13,026.
Yeah. I hate the system, and I think I don't know, man. I wish it was just there was more like just make it make sense. You know what I mean? Like finding a player for just a dirty hit is one thing, especially when it's warranted. But when it's a hit that it's especially and when it comes to the hits, um, when it's one that you can see where the defender was coming from or whatever, I feel like they should be given a little more leeway. Not well, you hit someone a little high earlier in the year, and this one's kind of controversial, so we're gonna find you a lot of money. I mean, I think it's ridiculous, and I think it's taking away from the game, but that's just
Well, my whole thing is like also like you're finding guys because their jerseys are untucked or their socks are too low.
yeah,
It's like that doesn't affect the game really. It's
yeah, no
just
one notices.
if it go. I understand if you say, well, you can't start the game with the socks low. Okay, fine. But if the game goes along and your socks start to go low, it shouldn't really matter.
Right.
So moving on to well, let's do this first. So accompanying with the Devontae Adams trade was the Amari Cooper trade to the Buffalo Bills, and I said Devontae was like I thought that was a place that he would go with Buffalo. I think Buffalo would be a really good spot. Veteran quarterback, all pro quarterback. They need help. That would be a guy. They didn't get it, so they said, okay, what about Amari Cooper? He's cheap. He's very cheap. They moved his salary down, so he was only going to make like $600,000 the rest of the year. And so it's like, okay, let's do that. I do want to make this abundantly clear. They were mid to late round draft picks that they gave up for them. Which, especially with the Raiders, when they wanted to give like Devontae Adams away, they said, "We want a draft pick. We also want you to take the whole contract."
Yeah,
Like, okay, I'm not giving you a second. I'll give you something else.
yeah. I think Amari going to the Bills is a big deal. I think it's just one of those where kind of got swept under the rug because the bigger deal is Devontae Adams. But I think it's the Bills keeping up with the Jets, man. Like it was a close game that they played. The Bills edged them out, Josh has got a number one. Who was the number one going into this year? I think the Keon Coleman, Shakir.
Shaquille probably.
I think that's done. Um, I think especially when it comes to Keon Coleman, I mean, they were probably hoping for a little more out of him thus far throughout the season. I think his hands haven't been sure. Getting a guy like Amari Cooper is going to be huge come playoff time. If they really want to compete with the Chiefs, you got to make a move like that. And I think it's a big time deal that not a lot of people are talking about, but it's going to pay dividends. I think come playoff season.
What's the old like country song that used to be an old country song about this? I'm not I'm not as good as I once was, but I'm once as good as I ever was. That's
Right,
kind of the position you put in with
right,
Devontae Adams and Amari Cooper. I'm not as good as I used to be, but I can still be that guy every once in a while. That's kind of what they need, so let's go.
right.
Um, the Raiders though, Mark Davis has says some strange things here. He basically said, "Yeah, we traded away Devontae Adams. We got a third round pick in Tom Brady," which was such a weird thing for him to say.
Yeah,
Let me explain. Tom Brady this past week became the owner or minority owner of the Las Vegas Raiders. He bought 5%. Now, this is very strange because like when this was talked about, they said that Tom Brady was I don't Lucas's foot there he is back. Okay. So they said Tom Brady would not be if he became owner of a team could not be allowed in production meetings. The NFL said no, he can be allowed. I don't know what they were expecting him to do. Like if they said, "Oh yeah, you can't be in production meetings now, so just sit over here and we'll get the transcript or something, or have Kevin Burkhardt regurgitate it to you somehow." I don't know.
right.
It was just a very strange thing, which I understood. I got it, but it was like I put this in like on YouTube, and it was on like Rumble too. Of like I put Tom Brady owns you. Basically true,
It's true.
but I thought this was also a very big thing for like we made this such a big deal for 5%. I thought it was like 20%. No, it's
Yeah,
5%. Oh, okay. Kind of a letdown.
yeah, and I I mean, it's whatever Tom Brady wants to do. I think it's kind of annoying just because I've actually been enjoying him as a commentator, and I hope this means that won't take a dip. Given the fact that there's different restrictions now, which I understand them, like you said. Um, you know, I like I said, I've been enjoying him as a commentator. Tom's always been the guy to do so many things at once. He's a very busy man, um, and it's good for the Raiders. I mean, you got a winner as a partial minority owner. So you know, though he only has 5%, I'm sure Mark Davis would listen to Tom Brady. So maybe this is probably a good thing for Raiders fans. If I was a Raiders fan, I'd be happy about this move.
Can I hope though, like if they do a Raiders game, that he wears the black and the white?
Yeah,
He just goes back to like Mark Davis. He goes to Mark Davis right on like in game. He's got the black. He's got the white. He's got the black shoes. He's wearing the leather jacket like Al Davis used to.
right.
He look greased back hair. That would be awesome. Let's just do that. That would be like
Yeah,
a great like. Let's do that for the 27th of October.
yeah. So for Halloween,
Yeah, exactly. That's what I mean. Um, yeah, I haven't actually listened to Tom Brady that much, honestly, because he's been calling a lot of Cowboys games, so I kind of like tune it out.
right?
But he said some nice things. Like I do like the idea that he's saying, okay, that was an A plus throw. That was a C throw. That was not a great throw by the quarterback. The guy has to make a great adjustment. And I'm like, okay, that's a good thing. That's different. It's going to take a little bit more to get used to it, but I like it. It's not bad.
Right.
Let's move on to the final bit of news before we hit our previews for Week 7. The Lions win against the Cowboys, but they lost Adrian, Aiden Hutchinson. I'm sorry, Aiden Hutchinson. He broke his tibia in his left foot. And like you kind of alluded to it earlier, Lucas, of saying he could have come back for the Super Bowl. That was the thing that was mentioned. I'm like, no, no. The only guy I've seen in my years of watching and listening and even going back in history coming off an injury like this, and you have to go back a long time. You got to go back to 1995, 95, 96, was Rod Woodson. He came off, he tore his ACL week 1, came back in the Super Bowl, and he looked like Rod Woodson. You could say T.O. when he broke his ankle and came back. You can say that, but not to this extent. Doesn't mean he should do it. Does not mean he should do it.
Hmm.
I don't care. Don't do it. It's not safe. Don't do it.
Yeah, I agree. I get it. Especially, I mean, the Lions are very good this season, and there's nothing stopping them from making a Super Bowl run. And Aiden Hutchinson's a big part of that team. But I'm thinking more longevity wise and just his health wise. I want him to play for years to come, and I want him to be healthy, and I want him to feel good. I think rushing this is a bad idea, and I just don't think it should be done. And I think his health is paramount, and we should worry about him being healthy, you know, physically and mentally, and then he can train for next season all he wants. But I think this year should be. I think no one should be thinking about that at this point.
Absolutely. So let's now kind of swing into Week 7's predictions here, and we talked about this Patriots being going against Jacksonville in London. This is another London game. I agree with you. I said if I said this on Monday, I said this on Wednesday, that if Patriots beat Jacksonville, Doug Peterson is fired. And if it's a bad loss, they may just leave Doug Peterson in London and just go home.
Yeah,
Get your
I
own
agree.
plane.
Yeah,
Shaq Khan is not waiting for his guys. I mean, come on.
yeah,
Shaq Khan's like, nah, stay here. Here's some money. Go rent a hotel for a little day.
yeah.
Or
I
figure
agree.
something else out. I wish someone would do that. That would be great. But I have the Patriots winning this game. Actually, hang on. I have the uh I think it's 3, but I have it written down. I didn't write it down until like Wednesday. Yeah, it was 5.5 for Jacksonville, but I got the Patriots winning with the score of I went 28-14, and then I think Doug Peterson's can. So
Yeah, I agree. I think the Patriots are gonna win. I think Doug Peterson's gone. I'm gonna go with 21-14 Patriots.
all right, moving on to this is an exciting game. Who thought this would be exciting? Lions versus Vikings, two and a
Oh yeah.
half for the Vikings. I took the Vikings in this game only because I don't know how they're going to get pressure. The Lions. I don't know how they're going to get it. And I think this is really more of a test for the Lions because when they've actually faced a good defense, they've not played well. Like, go back to when they played Tampa. They didn't play well. They struggled, and Brian Flores is going to have some kind of nugget of what he's going to do. Because I think, first of all, and I know this is a little bit of a hot take, and I know you think it's Bill O'Brien. I think Brian Flores was the best coach off the Belichick tree. And
Mhm.
I stand by that. I think he's the best coach. I think he's the most prepared coach. And if he gets another opportunity, I would not be surprised with it. I really wouldn't.
Oh, me neither. What's your score?
My score here would be Vikings win 28-24, but it will be a fun game to watch. It really will be.
Yeah, it's probably the one I'm looking forward to most Sundays, surprisingly, given that Chiefs and Niners are playing. But um, I, it's so tough. I'm gonna go with the Lions, just going off of that high of beating the Cowboys last week in the fashion that they did. Um, I think, like you said, I think Brian Flores is gonna have something cooked up for the Lions offense, and I don't think it's gonna be an easy game at all. But I think, given the fact that Aiden Hutchinson got hurt, I think the Lions are gonna play inspired football, and I think that they will win 31-28 Lions.
Can we both say though that this game might be a playoff game too?
Yeah, absolutely. I think I wish all four, depending how the Bears play later on in the year, I wish all four teams in the NFC North would make the playoffs. I don't.
That
It
would be
won't
the first
happen,
time it
but
would ever happen. Yeah,
I don't think it will. But it would be awesome
it would be
if it did.
exciting.
Yeah.
Let's move on to the Chiefs 49ers. 49ers favored by 1 at home. I took the Chiefs. I said, as bad as the 49ers have been, they've not faced a Spagnuolo defense yet. No McCaffrey. Here's news that came out though this morning. Ricky Percival, the young rookie who ended up getting shot before the season started, may play in this game. He might play. He might be suited up. So, with that being said, I'm still taking the Chiefs though to win. I don't know if it really changes anything. Um, Chiefs win, but it's a score of 31-24.
I've been out of the loop. I know that Jake Moody got hurt against the Patriots. Is he playing for the 49ers?
Who?
The kicker, Jake Moody.
I haven't heard anything. It's actually kind of interesting because when they played Seattle, they had another kicker who ended up getting hurt on like the final play that they
Wow.
had on the kick return.
Who's
So
their
I
kicker?
don't exactly know how this is gonna go.
Who,
It
who,
will
who do they
be
even have?
it will be interesting to see. I don't think Moody will play. I don't even know if he plays next week, to be honest with you. An ankle injury from a kicker is not the best.
No, absolutely not. I just want to see who it is before. I'm going with the Chiefs anyway. I'm just wondering. 49ers plan to use Anders Carlson,
Okay.
so that's who they're going with. He's. I mean, I'm pretty sure he got let go by the Packers. So uh,
So that means they're down to the third kicker this year.
yeah. Uh, I was just wondering. I mean, Jake Moody when he plays, he's a great kicker. But regardless, I'm gonna go with the Chiefs anyway. I think they're the better team, in my opinion. No Christian McCaffrey. If McCaffrey was in, maybe a different story. Um, I'm gonna go Chiefs 28, Niners 27.
And the final game, this is a Monday night game. I'm kind of excited for this game, honestly. Because this is this is going to be fun. Ravens versus Buccaneers on Monday Night Football, plus 3.5 for the Bucks. And the reason I'm excited about this game, I just kind of want to see what Todd Bowles does against Lamar Jackson. I just want to see how he plans to stop Derrick Henry. I still think there's no Antoine Whitfield, which is a problem because he's really good. But other than that, I still think the Ravens win this game, but it'll be fun to watch for a Monday night game. It won't be like last night where we were looking at Al Michaels and he almost has a flask in hand because it's so boring.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, I didn't even. I'll be honest. I didn't watch last night. I was like, Broncos Saints. Like, I'm tired. Like, it's just gonna put me to bed. It's like I
It
can't.
was not exciting. The excitement went out the door after the first 10 minutes of the game.
I agree. Probably the commercials were more exciting than the game.
So yeah, I have Ravens winning this game. Well, actually, no. No, give me the Bucks. Give me the Bucks to win this. They win the game 31-28 from a Chase McLaughlin field goal.
Okay, I'll take the Ravens then, just to be different. I think they'll win anyway, though. I'm gonna go Ravens 24, Bucks 21. I think the Ravens are hitting their stride this season.
I just want to see, can the Ravens find a way to get some pass rush? Because they've actually been really bad against the pass this year.
Hmm. And they're facing a decent quarterback. I mean, Baker, and he's got weapons, so it's not going to be an easy game in
Yeah,
the
Chris
slightest.
Godwin's coming off the career game.
Yeah,
And Mike Evans can still get open, so
yeah, watch
it'll
out.
be fun. It'll be a fun week 7. Let us know in the comments who you have winning, as this is the end of the What to Play podcast with Jacob and Lucas, and we'll see you guys next time for week 8.